Welcome to the Tower Talk podcast, a place for honest and open conversations to support you in living your best life from the inside out. Join me on this journey of self-discovery as we explore what it means to reach next level badassery and cut through the BS. So tune in, stay a while, and I promise I'll be right here alongside you as we figure this shit out together. Emily, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here again. If you ever need someone to just compliment you and make you feel better about yourself, that's this girl right here. This is my assistant, Emily, but she's so much more than an assistant. I hate to even use the word assistant with you because you do so much. And I will say this on everything that we do together. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this podcast. You guys, we wouldn't have anything without you. So thank you for being here again.
Oh my goodness. Of course. I love it. It's so fun. This feels like a field trip, like out of the office type of day where we get to go somewhere new and like spend time in person and do something fun and different. So
I feel like we should do these more. Honestly, we always go to the same coffee shops and stuff, and I'm like, let's go do something fun. Yeah. So yeah, okay. We're at a new spot today with this podcast. So I like these to do these like, I don't know, once a quarter or something, listener questions. These are questions that you guys have written in, but also from clients, also from the DMs. They're kind of all over the place, so we'll take this in a couple different ways. But Emily, I'm going to throw you the floor, and we'll go get started.
Perfect. Okay. Well, to start out, since we do these about like once a quarter, I want to know like how are you feeling about this quarter, this season, this chapter of life? Because since when we last spoke, it was in I think like early spring, and since then there's been so many developments in your personal life and work, and you had a birthday and travel. So how do you feel like right now in this season?
Well, right now today I feel pretty overwhelmed. The last time we spoke, I was kind of teasing the app a little bit, and now we're like in the app development right now, and I want to say maybe like a quarter of the way. We still have quite a few months to go, really. And I just feel like there's just so many moving pieces, and I feel a little bit behind on things, but also just really excited. But I think when I talked about it last time, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm in it. It's like this like weird flow of, and I know that's going to happen a lot. That's kind of like being a business owner is like you're on top of the world, and then sometimes you're like at the bottom, but like that's the beauty of it all. So feel a little overwhelmed, but also like we have talked about before, travel is a huge aspect of my life, but sometimes when you go away for 12 days to Europe and you're on a time zone that's so different, it's hard. And so I just know that like there's going to be, stepping back from some of that travel is a little hard for me in my life because I need it and I love it so much, but I need to be just like really head in the game right now. So yeah. How about you? How are you feeling?
I feel so I guess for the last few months I was feeling as though every other week I was like, I'm overwhelmed. Like it was like one of my most used words to describe life.
Yeah.
And lately I feel like I'm just a bit more like it's still just as busy.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I'm flowing with it a bit more.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of having fun of the like, yes, it's busy and it's kind of overwhelming and there's a lot happening, but it's all really fucking exciting. Like the work I'm doing with you, it's like creating and launching and getting ready for like this app. It's been so fun. And then the work I'm doing on like my personal sort of like baking business and all these other aspects of my life, like it's all busy and there's a lot happening, but it's all really exciting. So I'm trying to lean into that a bit more than getting in my sort of scrambled, anxious, like overwhelmed state. And it's been working because I feel a lot more grounded and focused with everything too. So yeah, busy but loving it and just excited for everything.
I need to lean more into that then, I think, really. What do you feel like has help you lean more into the flowy than feel anxious or overwhelmed when things get busy?
I think it's the fact that so with your work, like I'm just cruising with you, like I think I'd be in different shoes if I was in your shoes. I think it would be different, where it's like there's a lot resting on your shoulders, and for me, like there's a lot on my shoulders, but also like I'm just sort of working like alongside you. And at the end of the day, like you're making a lot of the big decisions that I think could lead to overwhelm. I'm doing a lot of this sort of like fun or sometimes monotonous like back end work that's really cool to help build, And then when it comes to like my personal baking business, it's not my livelihood. Like thankfully I have this work and other work, so the baking stuff, like I get to say know if I am feeling overwhelmed, and then I get to pursue things that feel good. So I feel very lucky and fortunate that I'm at this place where I think I can be really clear on what are my no's as well as what are my yeses.
Love that.
Versus, you know, if I was spearheading like the development of an app, there'd be a lot more things that I have to do, and I can't just like flow with it, if that makes any sense.
Of course, yeah. And I'm okay with like being in this place too. I think it's actually really nice because we're in summer now officially. And I'm a summer baby. I love the heat. I love it so much. But summer is very different in Austin than it is in a lot of other places, right? It's people are gone. It's pretty empty. It's hot. No one wants to be outside. And so it almost gives me this opportunity for me to like really put my head in the work and not be distracted. Because I'm very much like a YOLO type person. I'm like, and fear of missing out. I'm like, oh, I don't want to like miss out on things. But I'm like, actually, no one's really doing that much in the heat right now. So this is good time for me. 100%. How does summer feel for you here?
Same. Yeah. I figured this out. This is my third year here in Austin. And I finally feel like I've found the hack where like April, March, May, whatever is like spring. It's kind of ideal weather here. So those months, like I just don't plan to be as busy. Like I'm going to get my work done, and then everything else, it's like random trip to Barton, or, you know, like you're out in the pool or whatever it is. And then summer is kind of the equivalent to what winter was to me back in Pennsylvania, you know? And I view the summertime as like, okay, you know, there will be a few times a week where I do want to take an afternoon off and go lay outside, whatever it is. But for the most part, it's too hot. So I get my morning walk in, and then I'm just like kind of head down working all day. And then the evenings I do things. And it's actually, I find myself most productive in the summer, which is really neat and kind of opposite to what I'm used to.
Same.
But yeah, so I kind of feel excited because especially these past few weeks, I just feel myself getting more focused and like ready to work because of how, people are out of town, schedules are shifting. So I feel like this is go season.
I know. Same. I feel the same. And I feel lucky that I'm here during this time because I don't know about you, but I have a lot of friends that usually like leave for the summer or they're gone for a while. And I'm like, well, I don't really have any family in a nice lake in Minnesota. So I guess I'll just be here in the heat and working. And this is, like you said, like a very go time. And we get such a great fall, winter, spring that it's like, all right, might as well go now, you know?
1,000%.
Yeah, I love that.
So.
Yeah. But I do love summer. Summer is still my favorite. I mean, it might not be my favorite in Austin, but like, are you summer or winter?
I think I'm more summer.
You're spring.
Yeah, I am spring. I love to be outside. I'm like an earthy bitch. So it's just the more I can be outside, the better. And I love winter cozy vibes in PA. But ultimately, like, I want to be outside. I want to be around like the flowers and the sun and the water. Yeah. So I'm a spring summer baby.
I guess that's why we live here in the heat.
Precisely.
Right? Yeah.
Why we moved here. So
how's the cake business going?
It's been good. It's just like this slow growth that feels like it's slowly like testing what boundaries and capacity I can take on.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool to have just like such a creative outlet that I can also make some money off of, you know, and it's been connecting me to a lot of really cool like people and opportunities and events.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I feel like lit up by it right now, and that's really cool because I never saw it coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun to just sort of like have that in this, and I don't know, I've never felt so like confident and supported and just capable in my work as I do like right now with all this. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the cake balls too.
I know. I was gonna bring some today, and then I didn't have any made. I was like, "Fuck, I don't have time." So
it's okay. You know, it's funny. I'll always be like your like they call it like the end of the sink or whatever.
Oh, I don't know that.
Or like the kitchen sink. It's like I'll always have your leftovers.
Oh,
basically that's what I'm saying. So if you make some cupcakes and like, you know, have some extra or whatever, like whatever, I'll eat. I love the sweets.
I feel that, me too.
Yeah. So yeah, let's go into some listener questions and let's like just talk about things that people ask all the time.
Perfect. So I know we just said here in summer there's not too much happening, but for the rest of the world, right? Yeah. Summer is a time of so many events and occasions and celebrations and parties. And One of the questions that came in, and I think a lot of people will probably resonate with, is how do you maintain your sort of like healthy standards or lifestyle while going to social situations? And I assume they're talking about, you know, like the little comments and the food and the drinking and just, you know, feeling this need to maybe explain yourself to people. So from your perspective, like how do you go into these social situations and know what your yeses and nos are as far as like health standards decisions go, and then sort of stick by them, you know, time after time?
Ooh, this is good. I feel like we can take this in a couple different ways. So let's do like the food and nutrition aspects of it first. Correct. And let's take it, let's niche it down even a little bit more and talk about specific events. Okay. So not necessarily like travel, but we'll talk about like a wedding, a birthday party, a baby shower, or something like that. First and foremost, enjoy your time. Summer is a fun time where a lot of things go on and you want to enjoy the experiences that you have because you don't get them all the time. Most of the US works in a 40-hour, 9 to 5, like very strict schedule. A lot of people don't get a lot of time off. And so the hours that you do get off, enjoy them. And know that one event, one day in the grand scheme of things isn't going to deter your progress in the grand scheme of things. So when you look at these type of events, I want you to like really just enjoy yourself when it comes to the food and social aspect of it, the drinking aspect of it. Obviously, those things are not, you know, conducive to do all the time, but like I said, we don't have that chance a lot of times. So don't miss out on the opportunity to enjoy the social aspect of it, enjoy the food, the cake from ATX Cake Bay, while you have it, because you really don't get access to it a lot. Now I'm just going to shift into some of the comments because I think that this happens quite often with family members. And what Emily's talking about and what I've heard from clients in the past is that family members will say things like, you're going to go back for seconds, or I can't believe you're eating that, or in the total polar opposite way, you're going to be, oh, you're not drinking anymore. Oh, you want to focus on protein. Like, why not have fun? So those are kind of two separate things. But the first one of being a person that pushes food or a person that makes you feel uncomfortable around food, I would always say to yourself, what is the most true to yourself and how your body feels? Because only you know that. And so if someone like your mom or your aunt or someone says something like, you're going to have seconds, or I can't believe you're eating that, you can say something like, this does fit my body right now. I am enjoying my time, and I would just hope that you would want me to enjoy my time as well. You can kind of spin it back to them in the aspect of like, I can't believe you're not drinking, or you're not going to eat that. Similar style, right? You know, for myself, like I don't really drink alcohol anymore. So I'm going to say alcohol doesn't fit with my sleep schedule. It doesn't fit with my livelihood. It's not something that I'm really interested in right now. I'm not going to judge you. I don't, hold any grudges against you for drinking, but that's just something that doesn't fit me. But I'd love to hang out and have fun with you either way. And so I think with any of those comments, you have to really hold this boundary to yourself in what makes you feel the best. Because ultimately, your aunts, your friends, your siblings, whatever, they are not you. And they do not get to dictate how you feel and what things you put in your body to make you feel a certain way. Sorry, that was long-winded.
No,
I feel like that
was perfect. I feel like you covered all of it. And it's very true. It's like this matter of knowing what's true for you, and not letting like the sort of like opinions or commentaries of others sway you from something that you've decided is like the fit or the choice for your body.
Yeah.
And as you were speaking, what came to mind was also when you and Claire recorded, she was talking about how, when she finds herself judging someone, she sort of asks herself like, where is that a reflection of like something within her, right? And that's really sat with me ever since I heard her share that. And when you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, like, oftentimes those people making those comments, like, if you think about it, they've probably had those judgments towards themselves too,
Very true.
Of like them going to get constant seconds, or the fact that like maybe they think they drink a lot, whatever it is. And whether it's conscious or subconscious, sometimes just reminding yourself that what could feel like a harsher and unnecessary comment from someone else might be a bit of a reflection of their own like inner state. And I feel like that can just bring a bit more compassion and let you like detach from it and be like, okay, I don't need to get on offense here. You know, I don't need to get like go after them. I can just state where I'm at, what's best for me, and then we can like both move on with our time at this occasion too.
Has this happened to you
recently? So not the drinking thing recently. Yeah, like I've had, you know, maybe not commentary of like, oh, you're not going to drink, but just sort of that like feeling almost like a bit of pressure of, you know, like the drinking thing. But when it comes to the food, I kind of had a twisted version of these commentaries where when I first started getting into health, like I've had disordered ways with it in the past, but I've also just always been like, you know, I want to hit my protein and I know what feels best for my body at times. I've had health conditions and allergens, and I've gotten a lot of commentary about like, oh, you're not going to eat that, or don't you want some of this? Don't you want some of this? And it's like, no, like I've told you 5 times I can't have dairy, you know, just stuff like that. And I found myself, there was a while where like I would not feel excited to go to family events or gatherings because it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to have to explain myself again. Like, when will they remember that I can't eat these foods, or I choose not to eat these foods, or whatever it is. So I know that was like a big thing for me for a while. And it wasn't until I just started getting very clear of like my yeses and my nos and what fits my body that I can now go to any event and I'll eat what I want to eat. And if somebody says something, like I take it and I leave it. But yeah, I know for a while it was causing me like just unnecessary stress for sure.
Yeah. And so I would say, like, if you know you're going to an event where you see these types of people, like check back in with yourself and what is true to yourself, and then stand up for yourself. But also this is perfect example of like, really, you don't have to be defensive. You don't have to like start the conflict. It's most of the time coming from something within themselves.
Yeah.
And I think like you and I are different in the sense that like I can get very I'm like, oh God, no, but they have to understand. But like I can take some of this like, it's okay. They're gonna say what they're gonna say, and that's okay. But no matter what, you got to stay true to yourself and what you believe is best for you.
Yeah.
I think let's also take that into like travel too. So that's more of like the event type space. Enjoy it. Be in tune with your body. If you're traveling, and a lot of people do travel for the summer, I just got back from 2 weeks in Europe and worked out twice. And a lot of people are so scared that like, you know, when they go travel for a while or they don't have access to stuff, it's like sometimes I'll work with clients and they'll be like, oh, I'm going to like XYZ for 8 days. Like, can you write me a plan? I'm usually like, no. And not because I don't want to. It's really just because I want you to enjoy the time. Travel is so interesting because you can go, there's so many different ways to travel, right? You can sit on a beach, you can walk around a city like I did, you can go hiking, you can hang out and see sights, or you can just relax. You know, there's so many ways to do it. And so I want you to like step into your travel with like, what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to just be doing the exact thing that you're doing at home on vacation? Probably not. But if you do, that's okay, because you know it makes you feel good, right? So you can bring stuff like protein powder and stuff on vacation. You can bring snacks that you know that you enjoyed and fit well with your body. You can increase your steps, make sure you sleep well, make sure that you're getting enough water. But also, it's life. You know, we all need to enjoy life a little bit more and like step back and look at the grand scheme of things. Like, travel and experiences in summer, it's like we only get that many in our lifetime. And sometimes we really just need to understand that like health and wellness is a lifelong journey. It's something that you stick with forever. And so if you go away for a couple weeks of the year, nothing's really going to shift that too.
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of people might not be at that mindset yet of like, oh, this is a lifelong experience, you know, and for them maybe it's still newer, or they're still in that mindset of like, okay, I'm in this year-long program, so I'm doing this for this year, so I better like make the most of it. But it's true, like this eventually hopefully becomes a lifelong practice of the working out, the caring for your body, the food, the hydration, the rest, all of it. And when it becomes like a lifelong practice and a lifestyle, then those little trips aren't that big of a deal at all in the grand scheme of things. And I think once people can make that shift, it becomes a lot easier to just go with the flow on a vacation, you know, and let yourself enjoy the foods and the sights and the experiences without feeling like you're getting like off track or derailed. At least that's been my experience of shifting from like sort of like a super micro view to the more macro view of it all.
100%. And that's a great point to say, even in the sense of like, let's just say it is this micro 3-month plan. And you're like, okay, I signed up for 3 months. Within that 3 months, I'm going to take a week long thing. Okay. 3 times 4, what is it? 12. So 11 out of the 12 weeks you're on. So, I mean, I'm not great at math really quickly, but what is that, like 80%? It's 85%. Let's just call it 87%. Whatever.
Random number.
I keep making the number long. And so when you think about like your health and wellness journey, it's really like we're looking at 80-20 in the grand scheme of things anyway. And then you can look at it as like this macro, oh, this is out of the 3 months, this is what I did, 11 out of the 12 for there. If I look at the year, okay, that's 48 out of 52, whatever. You can look at it like that in so many different ways. And I just think that, you know, life is so short and we just have to like live it and enjoy it. But also these little habits that you add at home it's not like they're not going to show up on vacation too. 100%. I think that's what a lot of people think. They're like, oh my God, I can't work out. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm like, sleep, drink water, like do the other little things, because all of that stuff adds up to. Okay, we can move on from this.
Well, I love it. There could be so much there.
I know. So
and you'll have another solo all about healthy travel.
So actually, there's one before this, I think. Right?
One or another. Yeah. We can edit this out if needed. Anywho, but yeah, and tagging off of the OG question that related to social events, you know, we were talking about family and commentary and anything like that that comes up. One of the questions you did get, and I feel like you've gotten this many times before too, is what to do if like your family isn't on the like health train, you know, and quote unquote, or how can I get my family to prioritize and care for their health? You know, and I feel like there's a lot you could say on this. So what are some of your like initial thoughts to that question?
I'm so glad you brought up Claire's episode, because I've talked to Claire about this several times. Claire Bays. We'll have to link the episode in the show notes, but her and I have talked a lot about this because we have similar family in the sense that we both love fitness and wellness so much, and it's helped us in our life, but our family maybe doesn't ride that same boat. And it's hard it's like you want to shake your brother, your sister, because you want them to see this. But ultimately, like if you really think about it, you can't change them. You can show them how much you've changed. You can show them how great you feel. You can be this role model in their life and, you know, walk the walk and talk the talk. But I can't say, Emily, go do this when you really don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And so I think like the number one thing I would say is to not force them. It's to not go into it not expecting to change them, because ultimately they have to want to change for them to make the change. I think it's different if someone were to come to you, or you have a family or member or something that asks you a question. I think that's an opening, and you could, you know, have a conversation about that, invite them to a workout, show them how to do a movement, something like that. But if you see them, let's say, over drinking or not working out or like not sleeping well or something, you can't be like, oh, here's this unsolicited advice. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I agree. I've actually done the like whole try to force and control people to change. Yeah. And when I first got into my health journey, I was still living at home. I was a teenager, and I just tried. I spent so much energy trying to make my dad and my brother change, you know, and trying to like force these healthy foods, you know, onto their plate, and trying to, you know, just make them change. And nothing would happen. If anything, it just built a lot of resentment in our relationships. Yeah. And then funny enough, once I let go and I just went on doing my own thing, my brother found his way into it. Now he's, you know, just like jacked and takes care of himself, and I just love it, you know. And then, you know, I move away, and my dad suddenly, you know, like bikes all the time, and he's caring for his health. And beyond that, like I've had friends and family, and especially being on like social media where people can kind of see this evolution.
Yeah.
And people have seen how much I've just like changed. I'm now like, oh, so this is how you actually create change. Like you just, like you said, you show up, you do the work yourself, and then people like find their own way to it. But yeah, I've definitely tried the like force control, like make change, and it doesn't work. It just backfires most of the time.
What happened with your brother for him to be like, oh, I'm going to get to the gym?
I think for him, you know, it just comes down to like everyone has to find their why, right?
Yeah.
And I had my own why, and he didn't have a why, so he didn't want to change. And then when I let go, he did his own thing. He started playing soccer in high school, was really good at it, and just wanted to keep improving. And his why became like, I want to get better and better, and I want to be able to do this and do that. And so he just kept growing from there.
Yeah.
And then once you get that, like a year into, you know, he did strength training and then everything, now it's a lifestyle, you know, like he doesn't need a why. Like his why is just for life.
Yeah.
So that was really cool, you know. And then with my dad, I think it was just being in an empty nest. Like it's just him back home, and he started getting out on his bike more, and then he found that like it made him feel good and it got him outside. And so for him, it was this way to pass the time and be outside, and now it's become a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think it's like letting everyone find their own why and reason to really like start down that path.
Oh, I love that. And I think like what you said about your brother, like he was in it for a year and then he's like, oh, now it's like normal. I think if people can get to a year with strength training, with your fitness journey, and I know it feels like a long time, but remember, if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, it's not that long. If you can make it a year, it's game over for you. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is a part of your life. This is your lifestyle. And you don't need anything else to be like, oh, here's my purpose and my why. No, you've been consistent for a year. This is your life now. And hell yeah, that's a good one. It's so awesome. So yeah, I think like I get that a question a lot of like, how can I change, or how can I force, or how can I get them to come with me? And it's like, there's only so much you can do. And I think it's really just that person being like, okay, here's the shift that I needed. And it does take a while to like find that habit, but once you're there, you're there.
100%.
Yeah.
You stick with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, speaking of like habits and timelines and how things pass by, in our last episode Q&A, you mentioned how you were sort of like done with therapy. And so someone was wondering when you knew it was time to move on from that. Because, you know, interestingly enough, there are some things in life where there's a time when it's over and done with, you know, and you do move on from it. And I think therapy is something that is definitely in that category, and not too many people talk about, you know, like taking a break or when the day comes that you are done with therapy. So what was that decision like for you to be like, okay, I'm done for now. Maybe it's a break. Maybe you feel like it's done forever. But what was that process like for you to close that chapter?
Hey talkers, are you ready for a boost with your fitness journey? Use code TerraTalk to save 20% off your first order of Legion, aka your new best friend for high quality supplements. Now, why is Legion the best? Because whether you're aiming to feel stronger, more energized, or just a little more badass every day, Legion's got you. Their products nourish your body and enhance your performance without any unnecessary fillers or fluff, and it's backed by real deal scientific research. Plus, they taste so good, you'll actually look forward to chugging down your protein shake. I know I do. And they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. What's not to love about that? So, what are you waiting for? Embrace the journey to becoming the best version of yourself with Legion Athletics by your side. Head over to their website now and use code TerraTalk for 20% off your first order and double loyalty cashback on every order after. Your support through Legion helps keep the podcast as a free source of content, so your support really does matter. So head on over to Legion and enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've gotten several comments about therapy, and people kind of just are like, oh, I thought you just do it forever. I thought you just like, once you're in it for life, like strength training, right?
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be. And I think that even I, going into it, I was like, I don't know how long this is going to be. I'm just going to like keep showing up. And for me, it's not over. And so I want to just like say that right out in front. It's not over. And I didn't like go in there and be like, all right, see you never. It's like, she's like, email me whenever you want. We can always work through things. But we got to a point where when I first started going about a year and a half ago, I went in for a very specific reason. And as anyone that's been in therapy knows, that you go in for that specific reason and then you talk about a million other things and you realize that there's so many other things connected to da 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 da. But I got to this point over the last like few months where I just felt content in my mental and emotional well-being. Now, I know earlier in this podcast I said I'm feeling overwhelmed, but that's very much in the business front and not in the mental emotional front, which is a really cool place to be. Because I feel like for so long, a lot of the therapy that I was going through was and is through for family and relationships. And I feel just like okay with where they are. And I think for so long I was trying to kind of force, like you're trying to change people. I was trying to force a relationship or have something happen or have expectations, and it wasn't happening. And then I got to this point where I'm like, no, it's not going to change. And nothing massive changed with with the relationships, but I feel okay with it now. And I think like stepping into therapy and understanding that it is okay with where it's at was a place for where I could like literally take a breath. Like I felt like for a while with therapy, I was going in with this weight on my shoulder and it kept getting lighter and lighter. And then at that last session, really the last couple sessions, I was like, I feel very light. And I didn't really understand why until she actually brought it up. She was like, well, where do you want to go from here? What do you want to do? Or do you want to take a little break? And I said, I've kind of been thinking about that too. And originally when I went in that last time, I was like, maybe just the summer off, we'll like reach back out in the fall or something. And then with our conversation and how open I feel with the connection I have with my therapist, we got to a point where she was just like, reach out whenever you need, but I really think you're in a really solid place right now. And I was like, I think so too. So the other thing I think that's been helpful for me as I've kind of shifted away from it is when I first started therapy, I was going once a week. Then I went once every 2 weeks, and then I shifted to once every 3. So right now, I actually have on my calendar every 3 weeks therapy on my calendar, but I'm not actually going to therapy. She actually gave me a couple worksheets to work on for myself so I could remember the stuff that we talked about and like check in with myself mentally and emotionally. And like now I have some of these tools and resources under my belt that I can like check in with. So I think having that on my calendar is going to be really helpful for me to like not just totally forget about the work that I put in.
100%. What that was making me think of as you were speaking was just like the similarity of on like a strength training coach. You know, like you work with someone as you're sort of finding your feet and finding your way with it.
Right.
And then over time you pick up the tools and the resources and you like learn to be there for yourself. And then you can go off and, like follow a basic program and make it your own, or you can, do worksheets from your therapist, whatever it is. And I think, sometimes people, I've been there too, where you get in this mindset of like, kind of just like thinking you'll need therapy forever, thinking you'll need a coach forever. But there does come to be a day when you can like go out on your own and you can do it and you can be there for yourself, and always know that you can go back to working with a coach or back to working with a therapist or find another modality altogether. But I sort of love that she was also so like supportive of you taking that break away and not, trying to hold on to you as a client or anything like that.
For sure.
I love that she sent you on your way, and with like the supplies and the fact that you still have that check-in with yourself on your schedule too. Because I think that's super important, is that like even if you quit therapy or you take a break from this and that, having an opportunity to check back in and see where things are at is so crucial and like overall important for maintaining and progressing in that field of work, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I love that you kind of reminded me that like that's what I do with coaching. I want people to have, and that's what we'll do with the app, is like I want you to be able to like trust yourself that you can do it, that you can show up, that you can put in the work, that you can push yourself. And sure, I want to work with you and I want to work with you for as long as you need, but also like that trust shows up in the gym, but also can show up in therapy, but also can show up in your food choices, but also can show up in your business. Like so many of those things, relationships are related, and really it comes down to trust. It comes down to like obviously the work you put in with your coach, therapist, doctor, whoever, and then it comes back into you being like, I've done the work, I've put it in, I have the resources, I got to believe in this guy first. This guy meaning me. I'm a girl.
In case you guys didn't know. No, that's true. It's, coming back to yourself for it.
Yeah.
Well, with that, another question was how to navigate, and I guess navigate would be the best word, negative people in life. And I'm curious because you mentioned in that spirit there about this sort of like forcing of a relationship or like really trying to make something work.
Yeah.
So not saying that that was with negative people, but in general, like what have you learned about navigating relationships maybe, you know, and if someone's not really aligned with your life, if, you know, you want to call them negative, whatever it would be, how do you sort of, you know, discern who gets to be in your life and who maybe isn't a fit? If you've ever had to have like a conversation or set a boundary, I guess just like,
ooh,
what would you say to that?
This is a good big question. Are we talking about people that are already in your life?
I guess, yeah. The listener question was, how do I think it would be people already in life. Because how do you deal with negative people in your life?
Ooh, negative people in your life. Okay, so
yeah, like if it's a relationship you already have, kind of.
Yeah, and it's funny that you it's funny that you bring those relationships up because there's definitely some of those negative people in my life. Setting boundaries, it's like I like didn't know that boundaries really existed. It was like I think of like out of bounds in basketball. I'm like, well, those are boundaries. Like they set those, and like you can't hit the ball out of the line for pickleball, or else like you're out. And like, why don't those boundaries? Why didn't, in my mind, those boundaries exist with relationships? I didn't really understand it. Like it didn't really like come into my head, and like especially with family, I was like, no, family has. There is no circle. They have it all, right? They're like blood. They're your family. But it's like that is not the reality. And especially as you become an adult and you realize who you are as a human outside of growing up, you know, with your family. Like you can grow up one way and like change your environment and who you are. And that includes making the boundaries a little bit smaller, but also just like really being more in tune with who you are and what you want to feel. And I really honestly didn't understand that for a really long time. Honestly, up until like just a few years ago when I really started going to therapy and getting into like the deep work. And I was like, oh no, they have access to anything. But these boundaries have been so helpful. And boundaries not like, hey mom, sorry, can't talk to you, I hang up the phone. It's just being really open and honest with like, hey, I don't want to talk about this because after I talk about this, I feel really crummy and I feel crummy the rest of the day. Would you mind just like shifting the conversation to something else? Speaking of conversation with my mom. Mm-hmm. If a friend or family member has said something that has hurt you in the past, like for example, the people that don't know that you're like, I have to say this again for the 5th time. If you said to them, and maybe you have, I'm not putting you on the spot, hey, I don't eat this. This doesn't fit with my dietary restrictions. It really just doesn't make me feel good. And they are not okay with that, or they don't hold that standard to themselves to know that about you. Why would they deserve more respect than they're giving you? Mm-hmm. I always like to see this like a relationship is a two-way street. It just is. Of course, some parts of your life can be more one way than the other. For example, like if you just had a kid or something, you might be leaning more into the kid than your relationship with your partner. For example, if you're like working a lot, you may lean into the more of the work. You know, like relationships are always two ways though. And so if it's always going one way, like for example, some of the relationships that I had that were really tough, mm-hmm. I had to set those boundaries for myself, or I was constantly dangling a carrot in front of my face. It was constantly like there was an expectation or there was an assumption that it was going to be better or do more. And then they were negative and I felt worse. And so I would suggest, long-winded way of saying like, take note of the people around you that make you feel a certain way that you don't want to feel. And then say to yourself, do I want those people in my life? Sure, yeah. But do I want them in maybe a different way? I don't want to not have a relationship with X family member because he or she brings up these 3 things. I just want to say, let's have a slightly different relationship. Let's maybe just chat over the phone. Or if I see them in person, maybe let's just do one day instead of a 3-day sleepover. You know what I mean? So like it doesn't have to be these boundaries aren't like stop all or nothing. It's just setting them based on the person, the personality, and the relationship you have with them.
100%. And I love like the pickleball basketball, analogy that you brought up in the beginning, because it's true, right? Like those boundaries on a court, they're not like a wall that you run into. It's not like yes or no, black or white, definite.
Yeah.
It's just it's an honor of, it's like a respect system, and an honor system of, there's a boundary here, and are we both honoring it, or is one of us sliding over it consistently and saying like, no, that was in bounds, So it's just, it does at the end of the day come down to like the honor and the respect and sort of that like building of trust, the communication aspect of it too. And I sort of love the note you said about taking note of how people make you feel too, because sometimes like we're just not even aware of, like, I don't know, I think for me it was astonishing to really become aware around like how I feel with certain people and realize that, it's not that they're a bad person, but they just sometimes talk about things that constantly bring my energy down.
Right.
And that's an easy thing, not easy, but that's something that can definitely be set as a boundary or communicated versus having to like X them out of my life completely, or whatever it is. So I think when it comes to those types of like conversations that you've had with people or like the setting of boundaries, have you found anything to be like helpful in that, like any communication tips or styles or whatever it might be to get it across as like easily as possible?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up because I'll take it two ways. In the first, a friend of mine, you were just talking about the, they say stuff that you don't want to like hear, that brings you down.
Yeah.
For example, a friend of mine was kind of being judgmental or negative, and I've literally I looked at him in the eye. I was like, I know it can be easy to go down that route. I'm trying not to do that. So let's change the subject. Since that day, we haven't talked about that, and it hasn't come up, and it hasn't felt as negative since then. Now, on the flip side, I'm bringing up my mom because my mom and I have a tough relationship. But we have set boundaries, and I've had to, had these conversations with her, and then like a month later, like that'll come up again, and we kind of like sift over the line and in and out. And so you kind of have to just remind them in a very gentle way that's like, hey, we talked about not doing this. Would you mind if we just like talk about something else or do something else? And so sometimes there is this little like reminder in a very gentle way. But really, I think when you talk about your emotions in the sense of feeling a certain way, feeling a bad or icky or negative certain way when something like that comes up, the people typically, if they respect you and love you, they don't want you to feel that way because no one wants to be around people that make them feel shitty. Also, no one wants to be the person that is like, that makes me feel shitty. So I think sometimes, honestly, it's saying it out loud. And I think maybe it's hard to say. Conflict is tough, right? Especially when you're like trying to stand up for yourself, but also telling them to like ease off on some things. It can be tough. But I think if you're just saying it from a point of view of yourself and not making them wrong, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easier to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to express like your experience and
Yes.
what I am feeling and what I would prefer without throwing like the you word, and making it feel like you're attacking them or going after their character or something, So there are a lot of like ways you can speak about that. And there's a book I was thinking of that is great for those types of like communication tips, but I can't think of what it is. I'll have to see if I can find it and link it in the show notes. But yeah, just teaching like the nuances of just different ways you can shift the way you speak and communicate with people
100%.
to convey what you're actually feeling without them like taking it wrong or taking it personally,
Yeah.
And sometimes they will, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yes.
But for the most part, I think like there is a way to communicate these things and not have it like blow up or, be this like disastrous thing that we imagine it could be. So.
And I think that like honestly the therapy and having a really good relationship with my partner has helped me understand how to express those feelings without it being a blame, because I feel like I grew up with a very like defensive or blame or like that kind of mindset, and now now I feel like I just have those tools and resources now under my tool belt of like, here's how to communicate with different people that feel different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Taking your feelings and their feelings into kind of account. So,
which is hard to do, especially because everyone is so different, right? But I mean, that's the beauty of getting to know someone and building relationships, is to understand like who they are.
Yeah.
Really on the inside.
Be there with them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that.
Yay. Okay. Well, we can cut this out if needed, but it's 3:46. Do you want to do like a few rapid fire?
Sure. I love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap it up in a couple minutes.
Cool.
Perfect. Okay. So.
Calf is looking pretty good in this video.
Oh yeah, it's jacked.
I'm like, damn, okay,
Promo.
What's up?
Work out with me.
Promo.
Okay, so last 2 questions. Okay. So, what to do when you're not seeing progress in the gym? I know this is a loaded question, but I feel like you have some resources you could outline, like point out to.
What to do when you're not seeing progress in the gym? Number 1, are you actually seeing progress, or do you think progress looks differently? Progress is so different for every person, but here's where I would check in. Do you sleep better? Do you have more energy? Do your clothes fit better? Do you look at yourself in the mirror and a little bit longer? Do you have a better relationship with your partner? Do you feel stronger outside of the gym? Do you get winded going up the stairs? If you said yes to any of those questions, that's progress. If you have been consistent week over week for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks in a row, isn't that progress? If you have never been to the gym before and you just started going once a week, isn't that progress? I think so often people are like, progress is a certain weight. I have to hit a weight every week in the gym with the weights that you use. Or progress is the weight on the scale going down. Or progress is being able to see my muscles. No one else is noticing. I'm not noticing. People don't know that I'm working out. Am I working out? Do you have any of those other aspects? Then you are progressing. Like it is. And I think like, I say this a lot, but it's like, look outsider's point of view. Any of those things are still progress. Now, if you're like, okay, Tara, that's great. Oh my God, that's awesome. How do I see more progress in the weights that I use, or in the progress of being able to do a push-up or pull-up or blah, 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 blah? Number 1, are you lifting heavy enough? Are you? Like, really think about the last 5, 6, 7, 8 workouts you've done. Out of 80% of those workouts, do you feel the last few reps of what you did were challenging? And I don't mean like, yeah, I think so. No, I mean, were they fucking hard? Like, were they hard reps? Because if they weren't, you're just going in and you're going through the motions, which is fine and great. But if you want to see progress on your strength gains and your muscle, you've got to be challenging the weights that you use. That's just like, that's just what you have to do. And so if we're looking at progress in the strength aspect, number 1, are you lifting heavy enough weights? What does that mean? It's the last few reps of each set. It's the last set being really challenging. It's the, form always comes first, but maybe it's a little bit of a struggle at the end, and maybe you're like barely getting that last shoulder press or whatever it is. It's feeling pretty gassed afterwards. It's also feeling like, sometimes people will be like, oh, I don't need the rest. You would need the rest if you were lifting heavy enough. They'll be like, oh, I didn't do the 2 minutes. I just did 60 because like my heart rate was down. It's like, no, you got to go heavier so that you can get that rest and like feel that. Okay. So number 1, lift heavy. Number 2, are you eating enough? I think this is usually number 1 for a lot of people, but I would say specifically strength gains. Even if you're wanting to lose weight, like protein will always come first. Easiest way to do this if you're trying to gain muscle is 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight that you weigh. However, that can be a lot for a lot of people. So if you're, let's just say arbitrary number, you weigh 150 pounds and you only eat 90 right now, I'd be like, do not go to 150 over the next couple of weeks. Maybe try and hit 100 or so. Maybe then you move up to 110, something like that. And also carbs are important too. Like just eating more in general helps build the muscles and also just gives you more energy. And then the last piece of that, I guess, is the consistency factor. If you go to the gym, if you have a plan and it's a 3 times a week plan, which I write a lot for a lot of my clients, and you're going once a week, or you're going once the first week, 2 times the second week, 3 times the third, and then once, it's hard to see progress. Are you still getting to the gym? Yeah. Are you still sleeping better? Yeah. But again, if you're trying to hit those like strength gains, we've got to be consistent with it to actually make sure that we see that progress overall.
I love it.
Boom.
Perfect. And you have like way more in-depth podcast episodes that we can link here too for people that really want to like dive all in and get all the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
So then the next one was, how do I lift heavier if I can't go fully up 5 or 10 pounds with dumbbells? Which, I feel this pain.
I actually have a post I'm going to do about this soon on Instagram. But a lot of times for specifically upper body, it's really hard to go heavier. It's funny. I see a lot of like memes online that'll be like, you know, lifting for legs and you like throw the plates on and like lifting for upper body and it's like a piece of toilet paper. It's like hilarious. Because it's a big jump for a smaller muscle group, right? And with dumbbells, typically they go up by 5 pounds on either side. And so this is a really great question. And a really great way to measure this is to do as many reps as you can for the allotted reps with the heavier weight with good form. For example, if it's like 3 sets of 10 bicep curls, and you can use 20s for the first set of them, and then by the second, you're like, oh shit, I can only do like 5. Finish the rest of the reps with 15s. And then next week, the following week, I would just go, okay, well, on the second set, I hit 5 at 20 pounds. I'm going to try and get 6. And then I'm going to try and get 7. And then I'm going to try. So still another way to progressive overload, but a way to finish out the reps with not all the weight or like with really solid form.
You shared that tip before and it has like changed my upper body days.
Oh, I love that.
Because I would feel so stuck doing like the same 5s again and again. I was like, I don't feel like I can progress. And then I started doing like as many as I could with the heavier, and then I'd drop. And I feel like it just like popped off my like upper body. Like I was able to scale things on a much more like quicker pace than before when I was just like stuck using the lighter one. So that like changed the game for me with upper body stuff.
And just like making sure that you're writing that down, because like that still counts. Like that 5, okay, I got 6 that next week. Okay, well that was more than last week, and it, you know, and so you're still seeing that progress. So for upper body, for sure, I would do something like that. For lower body, it's like there's still a lot of really great fractional plates that you can use. Same thing as far as like dumbbells go. Do as many as you can with really solid form, and then lower the weight. And then for plates, I mean, there's just fractional plates. I think you'd be pretty solid with like going up and down with there. Yeah.
So
cool.
Amazing.
I love it. Well, this was super fun. Thank you so much for doing this again. We always value the questions that you guys bring in. As always, the more that you like, subscribe, comment, review, share this podcast with everyone else. It helps us grow, and it helps Emily still work for me because I want her to forever. And I just like would love to see this podcast like really grow and blow up, and the reviews and everything helps so much. So thank you so much for being here and for doing the question and answer. Do you have anything you want to leave anyone with?
Just support the show, y'all. Keep it going.
Give us a quote of the day.
A quote of the day. Pressure.
I feel like you have one on your arm you could read.
I have a couple. I have Love in the Light, Beautiful Chaos. No, one that hit me last week and had me like near tears was nothing changes until something changes, which just hit hard because it's like we're recording this June 2024 and like the year's halfway over.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, there are some things that I had wanted to change by now, and like nothing changes till something changes, and it just sort of lit the fire under my ass to really create the change I want to see in these last 6 months of the year. So
love it.
That's been mine.
I love that. And guess what? You can make the change yourself. I'm not going to make the change for you.
1000%. I got to do it. So
snaps. All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And we love you all.
Yes, we do. Bye.
Thanks for coming to this Tara Talk. I hope you're taking something away from this episode. And if so, I would love to hear about it. You can connect with me at The Tara Talk and at Tara LaFerrara on Instagram. A few ways you can help support the show and help spread the word. You can share it on Instagram, tag at The Tara Talk and at Tara LaFerrara. Send an episode to a friend, and please leave a review if the show is resonating with you. It takes just a few minutes, and it means so much to help this show grow, and it helps me to continue to bring on badass guests for all of us to learn and grow from. I am so happy you're here and excited to be on this journey with you. Until next time, be a badass with a good ass.